and we're looking forward to your talk. And they both, yes.
I'm Joe. My factor, Heidi. Basically, I was born and raised in Fort Collins. Went through school there. Went to CSU for a couple of years. Got tired of going to school. I wasn't going any place. Wasting my time. Decided I was going to go get a job and decide what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study. Tried to get a job, and at that time, you know, they had a draft. Nobody had hired you. And come see us in 2 years when you get out of the service. I run into one of my buddies in the student union one day, and told him, boy, I haven't been able to find any work. I have to do something. He said, well, I went down and talked to the recruiter. I think he's not going to the Army. I hadn't even thought about that. Eventually, I'm going to have to go.
Somewhere or another it went off.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay.
So you may need to start over again.
Okay.
No.
Anyway, we're up to the point where I'm going to go into the Army. We went down and talked to the recruiters, talked to the Navy guy and the Air Force guy. And it was 4 years, and the Army was 3 years, so that sounded better. At CSU, I was in the ROTC as a land grant college, so I had to go to, that was a requirement, 2 years of the ROTC. And so I'd selected the Air Force. And my reasoning there is that you had to march, but you didn't have to carry a rifle. So I was in the Air Force ROTC, which actually helped out once I got in the service. Anyway, we went in, was inducted here in Denver, put on a train, went to Fort Riley, Kansas, for all of our indoctrination, your shots and your testing and everything. And then after we got through all of that, they told us, well, you're going to go to this 2nd Infantry Division. I said, is that a missile outfit? And they said, no, that's full. You can't get in there. Well, that's what they told us. So we decided, well, we're going to send us home, and we aren't getting what we signed up for. And he said, okay, we'll send you home. But he said, don't unpack your bags because you'll be back in 2 weeks. We figured, what the hell, we're here. So we went ahead and just signed up, and we were going to go to this 2nd Infantry Division. It's the 1st Battle Group with the 87th Infantry in the 2nd Infantry Division. And they were going to train an entire division of troops from basic all the way through your advanced training, and then we were supposed to rotate to Korea. Well, in the meantime, about the time we finished our advanced training and stuff, the Berlin Wall went up. And all the rules changed, and all of a sudden we weren't going to go to Korea, and they came and they pulled a lot of the ranking NCOs and officers and things out of our unit and sent to Germany and Berlin and stuff. And in the meantime, I'd taken a test to go to OCS. I'm figuring this stuff out. I figure, well, I've got 3 years to serve. If I can go through OCS and stuff, I can be out of here in 2 years. I'm figuring out how to get this done. So we went through all the board reviews, and me and my buddy, and I don't know how many physicals we took, and were accepted to go to OCS. And so, in the last physical, my buddy, he flunked the physical. His hearing was bad. He flunked the test, and so he couldn't go. And I said, well, I'm going to go anyway. And so I think it was about 2 weeks before I was supposed to report. They called me to the orderly room and said, here, you've got to sign this. And I said, well, what's this? And they said, well, you've got to re-enlist for 3 more years. And I said, the hell you say? That's not happening. So anyway, I didn't care for Georgia at all, especially what we were kind of in limbo. They didn't really know what we was going to do. And so we ended up, Monday morning, we'd load up and go to the field. And you'd be out running through the swamps and up and down the hills and come in late Friday afternoon, Friday evening, scrub all your equipment, and then stand a full field inspection in Class A uniforms on Saturday morning. And this week after week after week. And so anyway, when I didn't sign up when I dropped out of going to OCS, I asked the first sergeant what any other way to get out of here. And he said, yeah, you can go airborne. And I said, sign me up. So I, young stud that I was, a long time ago, I went ahead and went to jumping. One of the highlights, I see, looking at a picture here and it's back here in one of the highlights that I qualified expert with the rifle on the known distant range, and they had come along with what they called train fire, and it was a lane that was about 10 yards wide and about 500 yards deep, and they had pop-up targets scattered out throughout this, and I did real well. I excelled at that. I think I won the company shoot off, and then I got to shoot in the division shoot off, and I ended up second there. So there's a picture of me with holding my little trophy I won and stuff. Anyway, went on to jump school. There was 2 companies of us, and I want to say there was probably about 500 to 600 people in each company. The one company that I was in was basically raw recruits and me. I was an E4 then, which worked out pretty well to my advantage. They didn't bother me too much until a little later on. There were, in the other company, there was Air Force Academy cadets, there was West Point cadets, some Naval Academy cadets, there were Marine Recon, Special Forces that had to qualify to be airborne. I'm trying to, and a whole class of second lieutenants fresh CS, and their life was miserable. Those instructors made it rough on them. And I think there's between over 500 people in each of the companies, and the first part of the jump training was you had to take a physical test, and that wiped a whole bunch of especially the recruits out. We lost a whole bunch of them that year, so now we're down to about 400. And then we get on into training, and you have a picture of that?
Well, how about comment on the picture of you with your...
Oh, I was lean and mean there. I was one tired son of a gun that's after 3 weeks in jump school. And if you notice the chin strap on the helmet, if I took that off, it looked like I'd left it on. I had fever blisters from it was so hot. And I went through jump school the last 2 weeks of July and the first week of August. And so when I was one tired sucker there.
So point out what's on your back versus your chest.
Okay, let's see.
You can pull the cord. You can pull the point.
Oh, okay. Well, this is your reserve chute on the front, and this is your parachute on your back. And I don't know, you can't see the harness very well, but that's the setup. And have my jump boots on.
I noticed there's spit shine.
Oh yeah, they got to shine. In Germany I had a first sergeant. Well, he was a ball buster. And if you showed up for reveille and you didn't have spit shine boots, you was in trouble. So I made it a habit before I left the barracks. Every night I spit shine my boots and stuff to keep him happy. And he ended up being a sergeant major of the Army in Vietnam. he was quite a character.
Well, why did so many fail the exam for?
They, like I said, the first, a lot of them couldn't pass the physical part. It was, you know, you had to do like 50 push-ups in a minute. I think the only exercise that they did that I remember that really kind of taxed me was, I think you had to do like 50 squat jumps in a minute. You know, and it was hard on the knees. And I think that I managed to, I made it in plenty of time, but it worked me out pretty good. But that wiped a whole lot of them out. And most of those guys that they were dropped back, and they gave them like 2 weeks of physical training, and then they caught the next class if they wanted. The one where they started dropping out was the 34-foot tower. And yeah, this is your 34-foot tower. What it is a zip line. I thought it was a kick, but it kind of simulated door here of the aircraft and stuff, and that right there would wipe them out. They'd back, and they couldn't get them to go out that door, and so they'd pull them back in the corner and let them, and some of them would finally manage to go, but that wiped out probably over half of the ones in my class right there. They couldn't, and I thought it was a kick. It gave you had your parachute harness on and the risers up to the trolley. You jumped out the door, and it gave you a pretty good shock when you hit the end of the risers and stuff. But then you got to ride a zip line about 50 yards down, and I went back and got in line and did it several times. I thought it was fun. It was a kick. Plus that I wasn't having to run and do push-ups while I was up there.
How about the big tower in the back?
Oh, okay. And yeah, in the background, this is the 250-foot tower, and we got to go on it a couple of times. They put you in a parachute rig, and a parachute's already open, and there's a big ring that had cams that hook onto your parachute, and then they pull you up 250 foot, and then there's a lanyard that goes up through the top of it, and so they couldn't drop you until you pulled that lanyard out. Well, like I said, the last 2 weeks of July and stuff, and hotter than hell down there, and 250 foot up, there's a nice breeze and cool. Oh, this is all right, you know. So McCarthy, hold that goddamn lanyard. No. So I finally pulled it and drifted down. It was fun. That was a fun thing. It was kind of funny. I was telling one of the fellas in the back here earlier that I was an E4, and I was one of the very few E4s in either of the companies. And I think in my company I might have been the only one. And so they really didn't bother me too much. The instructors really screwed with the new second lieutenants. But anyway, there's a little instructor, he's about maybe 5'4". I think he was from Ethiopia or someplace. But he come up to me one morning and he says,
He looked up at you, right?
he looked up at me. He had to really rock back too. And he said, I'm going to wash your skinny ass out of here today. And, you know, I engaged my mouth before I did my mind. I looked back and I said, you ain't man enough. Oh, did I ever regret that? I had that was halfway through the first week, so I had a week and a half of running. Either if I wasn't running when we were doing an exercise, I was running. The track around there, if I remember right, is 2 miles. And I got many miles around that thing. One thing about it, though, he was with me every step of the way. And stuff. And come to find out that he was a marathon runner. And he said, I wasn't really too gung-ho. I just wanted to get through this thing. And he said it looked like I was kind of getting a crawful of what was going on there. And so he said, I figured I'd get you pepped up so you'd make it through okay and stuff. I'll tell you, I was really in shape when I got out of there. And like I said, in that one picture, I was tired. But anyway, I got through, made my 5 jumps.
Okay, maybe comment on
Okay, yeah, this is, and I jumped 123s. Is what we jumped when I was in jump school. That's kind of a picture. No, that was the little mini Herc 130. the twin engine. I did get one jump in a 119 down there, but most times it was 123. That's a picture of the guys. You know, some of them they was all ready to go, smiles, and other all different looks on their faces and stuff, because they didn't know what was going to happen for sure. And after you had been through the 2 weeks of the jump training, they'd pounded into you just automatic. You didn't even have to think about what you was going to do. You stood up, hooked up, and they said, go, you went.
So maybe explain the sequence a little more of the final jump. You're sitting there.
Yeah.
A lot of noise.
There's a lot of noise. There's not insulation in the military planes. I don't know. And I don't remember how many, maybe 20, 25 guys and down each side of the aircraft. And so when you jump out each side of the door, and up overhead there's a cable, and that's where you hook your static line up to. When you stood up, you'd hook your static line up, and that's what would pull your parachute out when you went out the door. But that's kind of a picture of them coming out the door. If you look on this is the 130 here. If you look here, there's a wind deflector right here in front of the door, so that you don't get all the prop blast. And the 123 was just like that, only just a twin engine, just half a lot smaller than the C-130 and stuff. So that's what we jumped in. It's quite impressive when you see if you're down on the ground and they're dropping and seeing the people come out of the airplane and the chute's open and stuff.
That's another picture too. What happens next?
Yeah, see here, your static line is hooked to the top of your parachute, and as you go out the door, it pulls the parachute out of the pack, and then you come out and it'll catch air and fill up, hopefully. Mine always did. I had one chute that I only had to pull my reserve one time. I had one chute that was rotten. I come out the door and the chute opened up. You got the shock and looked up and felt good, and all of a sudden, sing. And I looked up and it was breaking risers. It was rotten. And then it blew a panel out of the chute, and I said, ooh, and I'm starting to come down pretty good. And so I pulled my chute and put my reserve out and rode both chutes in. And that's the only time I had to use the reserve chute. But this it's impressive. You're on the ground and see them all come out of those airplanes hanging up there.
Do they like, besides the physical of going up the towers and jumping in training, but do they add any added training for like the pucker factor for when you're coming up and standing in that doorway when you're...
There's a whole lot of that pucker. They just really, after you'd gone through they were just kind of mechanical. You knew what to do. You'd practiced how to land. And they had all the different apparatus and stuff. In fact, Mike was showing me the one that bothered him the worst was when they taught you how to do the PLF, the parachute landing fall, and I'd forgotten all about it. In fact, I brought a kind of a annual type of thing that shows all that stuff there if you'd like to look at it. And they used to put you in a parachute rig, and then they lifted you up in the air 10, 12 feet.
Yeah.
And they'd swing you out over here, and you're swinging away, and then they drop you. So you had to learn how to land right and stuff.
You don't land with your feet spread apart.
No. And that was a big key that they really stressed while we was going through training. That you pull your legs together, bend your knees, and point your toes to the ground. And if you didn't concentrate on that for some reason, and it happened to me a couple of times, I wasn't paying attention, you'll pull your feet right up under your butt. And if you go in like that, you're going to land on your knees. And I don't know why, but it a couple of times I caught myself doing it. You had to pay attention. So.
Well, you're always told as soon as your feet touch, you're supposed to twist your whole body, and it forces you to
hit your calf, your thigh, and then your side.
Down on it.
Mm-hmm.
You you're in trouble. Because you're normally, you would jump with probably 60 pounds of
Yeah,
stuff
you'd had-
tied to you.
That's where jumping in jump school was a piece of cake, because all you had was just a parachute. You know, when you got out and you're actually out, you know, had your rifle, your packs, and your sleeping bag, and everything that. In fact, there's this one picture of us in front of the. Can you run that up, Mike? Of us in front of the 124s. But see, here's all the garb, your sleeping bag and stuff hung under the reserve. On your butt is your pack, and I don't know if you can see it. They had a bag you put your rifle in, and it's strapped to your side, and you had to remember to untie that, or it's like you had a splint on your leg, and you couldn't get up when you got on the ground. And I used to forget to untie it all the time. So then I just quit, and I could hold it in with my hand when I went out the door, so it wouldn't beat me to death. But that's kind of that's where this was in the spring, and in Germany it was real hard to get jumps because of the visibility. It was always foggy and nasty, and the Air Force wanted 5 miles visibility before they'd drop you. So during the winter we jumped light aircrafts, and primarily at night. The Army, they'd drop you anytime. And I dropped in blizzards. And
So where were you in Germany?
This is where the division headquarters for Bad Kreuznach was. Gonsenheim, Mainz-Gonsenheim, Wiesbaden is right about here. It's just a little south and west of Frankfurt, 40 miles or so. And it's right on the Rhine River.
Pretty area.
It's a beautiful area, a wine growing area. So anyway, I got through jump school, and they gave me orders to go to Germany. And I got there the first part of September, 62, and they assigned me to a company, and I was 60, I'd be 22. And so I was kind of, my age, I was older than the privates and stuff, because they was 18. And then most of the NCOs that in our company had been in Korea. They had been in the service several years and stuff. So they assigned me to, it was, when I first went over, they were divided up in battle groups. So I went to Charlie Company of the 1st Battle Group of the 505 Infantry. And when I got there, the 504, there was several of the people that they had taken from the 504 to help be the extras in the film in The Longest Day. And there's several people in that movie that I recognize. One of the big husky Sergeant First Classes I knew pretty well. He even had some speaking parts in the movie. He was from the 504. But then shortly after that, they reorganized, and we were the 509th, and they went back to the regiment thing. And I, like I said, when I first got there, they were taking the platoon annual training test and stuff. And so I'd just been there a day or two and had to go out, and they assigned me a squad right off, because I didn't E4. And I had to go out.
So you were still E4?
I was still E4 then.
Squad leader.
Yeah. And they kind of pushed me through because I'd been to ROTC in college and stuff. They put me. So anyway, we run our annual training test and stuff. So I'm brand new in the company, just been there a day or two. Didn't hardly know anybody. Didn't hardly know the people in my squad. And so now all of a sudden, all the platoons were short people. So I was kind of the new guy on the block. So I got to run 3 more annual training tests with the platoons. So now I've been in Germany almost 2 weeks, and I hardly knew anybody really, because I'd been here or there. And now when we first got there, you were restricted to base for 2 weeks so you adjusted the climate, and I guess go to the EM club and get used to the strong German beer. And so I'd been out one time. Me and one of my roommates, we went to town and had a few beers and stuff. And the very next week, so I was probably in my 3rd week in Germany, they called me into the office, and the CO, he says, going to send you to NCO school. And I said, geez, I don't really care to go. Oh yeah, I think you ought to go. You'd make a good NCO. And so I said, I just got here. I said, my basic load of my stuff hasn't got here. I said, I don't even have, my uniforms and stuff to take to the. He said, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that. And this went back, and we battered back and forth and stuff. And he finally said, Mac, he said, you want to go to NCO school at an E4 or a PFC? And I said, when am I leaving? You got I decided then I was going. So anyway, he said one good thing about it. He says if you place in the top 10%, you'll get an automatic promotion. Which at that time there was no promotions to be had in Europe because they shipped all the rank in. The only way you could possibly get a promotion if they happened to break somebody and there's a stripe floating. So I said okay. So I went to the next week. I went, and I think it was like a 6-week school. It was like mid-October, and went to bomb holder. There's no holder like the bomb holder. They used to say, oh, it was a pits. And I come back to the company. It was just prior to Christmas, maybe a week or two before Christmas, and I'd come out second in the overall class of the thing, but I'd totally forgotten about the fact I was going to get a promotion. I hadn't even crossed my mind. So I was standing in Reveille one morning, and McCarthy up front. I went up front, and they gave me my stripe. I was really surprised because I'd totally forgotten about it. So then I was a buck sergeant, and it ended up prior to me leaving. They sent me to a promotion board. There's some stripes coming available for E6s and stuff. And I told them, I said, don't, you aren't going to give me the stripe. I said, I'm getting out. I'm not re-enlisting. I'm getting out of this. And so anyway, I had extended myself 6 months so I could see the Olympics, some of the Olympics in Innsbruck. And the sweet thing back there kind of helped that along. She liked that. And she was all for me to re-enlist so we could get married over in Germany. And
so how did you meet? How did you two meet?
oh boy. I jumped out of an airplane and there she was. She was friends with a girl who went to the American high school, who was the daughter of the supply sergeant in B Company, and I knew him. Anyway, we had a sergeant that come in that was real good friends with this guy, and he it was over at their house, and Heide happened to be there, and so Heide was going to go out with him, and he didn't have a car or anything, so he decided they'd invite me along and get me a date. And so she lined me up with a gal, and we didn't hit it off at all. So I put up with her for a few hours and finally took her home. Said, that's it. And it was maybe a few days later, Heide called me and wanted to invite me to something. And I don't remember what it was.
Party.
It was a party. I think it was the anniversary of your parents. And I said, well, I'd love to come, but I said, I've got guard duty. I'm sergeant of the guard. And that was something, usually sergeant of the guard in the battalion CQ required an E6 or above. And they had me pulling a lot of duties in E5 and stuff. And they was grooming me. And so I said, well, I said, I'll come see you when I get off of guard duty the next day. So we started dating then. And her mom told her, he said, boy, you better keep him. He's a keeper. Her dad didn't care for me, but so.
Mighty beautiful bride, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did well.
You
I did well.
So you returned home.
Yeah, we turned home, and yeah, this is when well, it's quite a couple. A long time ago, 52 years. So she just about had me talked into. She was really wanting me to re-enlist, and so was my company. And they because they had plans for me, and she was thinking that I'd be at least another year in Germany. And as it turned out, it wouldn't have happened, because if I re-enlisted, they were going to send me to OCS. They already had the dates for me to go. And so when I left her the night before I had to go take my final physical, yeah, I'll re-enlist. And I didn't sleep a wink that night because I didn't want to re-enlist. So I went over to take the physical, and we were filling the papers. And he said, "This is re-enlistment paper." No, it's discharge papers. Same physical. So I took him back to the company and gave him the first sergeant. He said, "You didn't re-enlist?" I said, "No, I'm not gonna." And then he told me that well, we had plans for you. As soon as you sign those papers, you're going to be an E6 right off. They already had the stripe for me, and you'll be going in 2 weeks. I would have been going to OCS. So, and had I re-enlisted, that would have been the way I would have went anyway. So.
Sure.
Oh yeah, you know damn well I'd have been in Vietnam. Yeah, the closest thing I come to anything shooting was the Turks and the Greeks are notorious for not getting along. And half of Cyprus is Turks and half is Greeks, and they sent us down there a couple of times to kind of be peacekeeping forces with them. And that's the closest I come. They were shooting at each other, and they somewhat zinging over us too. So that's close as I come to any real shooting thing. So anyway, I got out and come home, and I said, well, I'm going to have to. Heidi's going to be coming, and at that time, you know, this is just a few years after the Second World War, so you know they didn't have telephones and things, so the only way we communicate was letters. And I get this letter, and she says, "Oh, I'm coming on flight such and such," and on the date, and it was the very next day. Oh my God. Holy, if that letter had been late, she'd been in trouble. But so she came, and then I hired with Western Electric. It's an arm of AT&T, the phone company, is an installer. I worked with them for 33 years, 34 years. It progressed from a basic one index installer to a operation area manager of 5 states, installing telephone equipment. And primarily my thing was with had troops installing equipment in AT&T long distance phone offices. And I had ended up with 5 states: Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, and Montana. That was about the last 5 years of my career. And then they came along and they wanted to reduce in forces, and they're going to pay me to go away. And I decided, well, I'm going to get out. So I think I retired at 56.
And you done a stint at the American Embassy in Bonn.
Oh yeah, I had done a couple of jobs for it was a group that Western Electric had that did government contracts for the military and stuff, and met an engineer there and become real close friends with him. And he got me hooked up on a job to help put a new PBX in the embassy in Germany, which was about an hour and a half from where folks lived. And so I went over, and then as soon as the kids got out of school, she'd come and spent the summer with her parents and sometime with me. And I'd go down and visit them every weekend and stuff. So that was quite an experience.
Like a free vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, because I was living on my expenses, and they paid us real well. And paycheck going to the bank, we was flush when we got home for a while. So yeah, I started out as a index installer. I made the top installer in 4 years. Right after I got back from Germany, they promoted me to management. And on and on. And then after I retired, I didn't do anything for. Well, I was busy. The son and daughter were both getting married.
So do they live locally?
Yeah, they live here in Denver. I have a son and a daughter, and each of them have a son and a daughter. And the daughter, she bought a condo, and needless to say, Dad had to come finish the basement in it. So I spent some time there. And then the son was getting married, and he bought a house, and Dad had to come finish the basement there and do the fence and everything. And so and then in the process, we'd bought a home here in Broomfield. We was building it at the time. And so Heide had 6 months to pack all the dishes and stuff like that up. I ended up with about 2 weeks to take all my crap, and I was into fishing, fly fishing, and radio-controlled airplanes. I was into that pretty heavy at that time, and I had all kind of stuff. And so I had about 2 weeks to get my stuff packed before we had to move. And so.
Joe, for your 90th birthday, are you going to jump out of the plane solo?
You know, it's funny. We was talking about this coming over this morning. My daughter did a tandem skydive when she was 30, and she said the other day. And in fact, I wanted to go, but I weighed too much. If he's over 200 pounds, you had to go through the whole. I said, I've been through jump school. I know how. And stuff, but I would have had to go through the whole skydiving thing to go with her, and so no, probably my jumping days are done. But I would have went with her if they would have let me. But I couldn't. I was too heavy to tandem jump with.
She wants to do it again.
And she's gonna
be 50 next year. She wants to do it again.
Yeah.
She was a flight attendant for 25 years.
Well,
Yeah.
Heidi, I was
Yeah.
wondering, would you mind coming up here
Oh,
and tell us a little bit about this marvelous picture of your parents
yeah.
and how the
I'm
real
so
story of
jealous.
how you two met?
Those are my parents. They're long gone now, but handsome, huh?
Yes.
Wasn't he so? My father was a classical trained musician, and of course he got drafted. Then he worked for the, after the war, they all got reclassified, and he worked for the justice system in Germany. When we moved from Schleswig-Holstein, northern Germany, to Mainz. But he left like a year ahead of us, and unfortunately they passed away 6 months of each other, which was a blessing that Joe was at the embassy, because he stayed along with the kids, and I had to go back because they started school in September, and so he had some more time with them, which was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was the last time I saw her parents.
And so it was then the following year, 6 months. So I spent quite a bit of time. Joe stayed with the kids. But yeah, it was a fun time. But he got that story wrong how we met.
Yes, yeah. Well, let's get to it.
We're gonna remember, we went to the NCO club in Wiesbaden.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, just Anita,
Yeah.
she dated later on the Sergeant Major of the Army, Ben Siegel, wonderful gentleman from Georgia. And I was with another fella, and we were in Joe's Volkswagen, and she bitched the whole damn time from the NCO club all the way. And at that time, Mainz got we only had one Rhine bridge over the Rhine after the war, Theodor Heuss. And then in Beakley, about 5 miles later, they built a brand new one. So we came over the Rhine Bridge, and Joe finally had his nose full. He stopped the damn car and told her to get the hell out of the car. So he's not the nice person he makes himself out to be.
Enough's enough.
And I thought to myself, what a horse's patoot. And then I worked for the Air Force in Castell on the other side. I lived in Mainz, took the bus every day. And we were the group that ordered all the food for the troops in Europe. A lot. And constantly invited to parties, obviously, you know, at our age. And an interesting brigadier general who liked the alcohol quite a bit and chased us down the corridor a few times. And always had parties. And so I was invited, and that story he got right. I was invited to a party. I said, oh, I called him. He had given me his telephone number, and he was on guard duty. And he picked me up, and we were going. I think you took me to the.
I was hungry. I hadn't eaten.
Yeah, we went to the snack bar of all places. And anyway, rest is history.
Yeah,
From then on. Yeah. We married 52 years in January. And in those days, when we said I do for better or for worse, we meant it, right? And it was for better and for worse. Trust me.
Do you have a brother or sister?
Two sisters, both in Germany. Older sister, Christa, she just turned 77. We're all in September, October. Youngest sister, Karin, who was early on 70. One lives in Rheinland-Pfalz, Mainz, Bretzenheim. The other lives in Rheinhessen, which is the other province right on the Rhine River. And yes, they're all two nephews. One is the, I think Joe probably told you, the Doctor for Homeland Security in Germany. And the other one was part designer of your security system in airports. He worked for Smith Hyman, double engineering degree, very, very smart.
He designed the X-ray machine that you run your bags through at the. And he's really interesting to talk because, you know, he's damn smart that he could talk way over your head. But he was explaining to me how it, and I was into electronics, being with the phone company and things. But he could explain just to how that X-ray worked and stuff, where I could understand what he was talking about. It's really pretty interesting to talk to him. He's brilliant.
And the interesting thing, he is the one that started part of Hyman. That's how it started out. Then they got bought out by Smith, which is a British firm. And about 3 years into working with Smith, still over in Wiesbaden, they laid off all the top engineers. Now, there is a law in Germany that if you work for somebody for 25 years, they're going to have to figure their retirement, what it's going to be like. Well, he got a lawyer, and he got close to €1 million at that time that Smith had to pay him. Plus, he kept some of his patents.
Yeah, he had several patents that he had leased to him.
And when he applied for other jobs, he got 156 offers, including the United States. And he's in Koblenz, which a lot of you people know, which is on the Rhine River. Another firm. He spent many hours going to China and everywhere. And they have no children. His wife is works for Deutsche Telekom, and she's in high up there. And they have a beautiful villa in Itzstein, which is outside of Wiesbaden.
Up in the Taunus Mountains. It's
Yeah,
a beautiful
and
area.
He's just a real. And our niece is a dental assistant. She has 2 daughters, Franziska and Katharina, who came to visit us 3 years ago. For the first time, we had 2 teenagers in the house for 4 weeks. Let me tell ya. But you know what? We dropped them off at the mall in the morning, give them the cell phone, they loved it. We'd never seen them until 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
And they want to come back. And it's fascinating how how the Germans just
So do you
left.
get back to Germany fairly
Every
often?
2 years.
Good.
Yeah.
We go back every 2 years. Now,
Yeah,
honestly,
when the-
right now,
Yeah, a little.
this is not going to happen this year.
It was great when the daughter was still flying, because we'd fly passes, fly first
We got
class
first-class passes
and-
for
and
Germany, so that was kind of
stuff. That worked out great.
Yeah, but now it's,
It's
you
you
know.
can't fly passes
And
anymore. Just-
Lufthansa has a direct flight from here to
Right.
Frankfurt, and then also in the summer they go to Munich. But yes, it's fun to go back. It's not the Germany we knew. It has changed, as you all know. And but it's still, you know, at heart, that's my own country.
Now, you were very small at the end of World War II, and
Yes,
your family
I
was
was.
in Berlin. What do you remember been told, or what it was like the first
Well,
couple of years?
my mother kind of stole me out of the hospital. I was born 44. The Russians
Yeah.
were coming. And Dad, of course, was captured, as you know. And so Krista, my older sister, was 5 years old. And she remembered we had a house in Berlin-Döberitz, which is a, you know, is same like here in Denver. We had different suburbs in Berlin, as I was told. And that house was bombed completely. And Krista my older sister would tell stories. My mother,
She never said much.
not very much. We were not, Dad would not talk about few things, but we were not allowed to ask. If he wanted to, you know, tell us, he would tell us. So we respected it. There was the times when you say yes and please, and you get lost.
Yeah, the only time I heard her dad say anything at all about his service experience, when he finally came over and visited us in 72, 73,
Yep.
and we was going from here to Fort Collins, and at that time it was still farm country, you know, wheat fields and things, and he got real quiet, and Heidi asked him and he says, "This reminds me of when I was in Russia."
That's the only time he would.
That's
So he was a musician.
Oh, classically trained.
He played in the 36 Olympics.
Yeah.
And
What instrument did he play, Heidi?
The main was clarinet, but he played 5 different ones. He could play the drums and he mine's it's a 2,000 years old. It has a beautiful cathedral. It's strictly Catholic. We have a cardinal, and so Dad played in that orchestra. Of course, after the war, he played, and also mine's has a Mardi Gras, probably bigger than New Orleans, and it's televised over here. And so he played in all of those bands. He played the Wine Fest and the Beer Fest, and also he had a box at the opera in Mainz. And my two sisters couldn't care less to go to the opera. They couldn't stand the screeching. And so I was the elected one. Well, I would go with my dad to the opera. He was a big Wagner fan, of course, classical music. And then Joe would pick us up, but he would get shit-faced in a guest house someplace, and then he'd pick us up after the opera. My father wasn't too fond of him. Trust me.
he had no use for me whatsoever while we was over there. And then after he came and visited us in 72, him and I kind of bonded. He said, "Well, this guy's he's okay. He provided good for my daughter." So,
Heidi settled you down.
yeah.
I did.
And so after that, him and I got along great. He's super. But before that, no, I was her mother's boy. That was it. I mean, when I come over, she had the special salamis and stuff in the refrigerator. Nobody could have it except me.
But my dad, no. So, yes, they're pretty neat.
Heidi, what kind of uniform is he wearing there? Is that a military?
You know, I think it's let me turn around here. It's a dress uniform, and,
Yeah.
you know, special, and, you know, I have no idea what rank he was. I really don't, but I thought, as you can tell, and I should have brought it. My birth certificate still has the swastika on it.
Really?
Wow. The kids,
Yeah, well,
well, of course, I was born 44. And so that was a great show and tell for our kids.
Yeah, our kids and our grandkids, they've all taken that show and tell.
lots of copies of it. Yeah. So that was kind of neat. Yeah, I
seen
have.
that picture in color, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
That one, yeah, I have no idea. You know, mother, of course, she took what she could carry, a suitcase, and some of the pictures. My older sister kept some of the pictures, and then we made copies. And, but very, very few things that were left over that she took. She had no time. She had to get out of Berlin. You know how bad it was when the Russians came.
When were they married?
38. And then my older sister was born in 39, so she was 5 years old, and she remembers the bomb. And Krista would tell us, she told us a lot.
Yeah, she was told when they was on the train, she could remember when they was on the train leaving Berlin, and the planes would come and strafe the train, and how they'd get out and get underneath the train or get in a ditch and stuff. She still remembered that.
Yeah, she still remembers
And
that.
stuff. But yeah, she's the one that we got most of our information, because her dad didn't say anything.
My mother, very few things. She would tell us a little bit more. But we were fortunate that the Red Cross, after Dad was traded from a Russian prison to the British. And in Schleswig-Holstein, the most northern region of Germany, that was the British zone. And then came the Americans and the French, you know, and yeah, I remember standing on the street when the trucks would come. Remember my mother telling us that? And the Brits would come to the trucks and throw the candy out. She says she can remember how many times she heard the screeching of the brake, and the neighbors, Frau Hoffmann, Heidi is out in the street again. I got in so much trouble. She says she had many heart attacks, basically. But I do remember them throwing the candies, and you know. But
Joe, did the 509th go into Vietnam then? 509th?
yeah, they did.
I believe they did, yes. In fact, I had most of the NCOs that was in my company in fact, my company was reading through, they were career people, the whole outfit, but there was, most of them were married, the NCOs. There was a couple of them that I got to know pretty well. In fact, one of them, they'd have me over Heidi and I come over for a dinner on Saturday night and stuff, and it so happened when we jumped in Turkey one time, and he broke his leg and had to go to the hospital down there, and it was like about 6 weeks before he could get back. And you know, all he had was his clothes was on his back, and he's gone. He missed payday, so his wife didn't have any money, and she was in checking to see if she could get paid. And I finally I took her over to the commissary and bought groceries for her and tided her over until he finally did get home. But yeah, if you got hurt in Turkey, you went to the hospital, Lord knows when you'd get back. So I broke 3 ribs, landed in a rock pile. The only time I got hurt jumping. And I told our old doc, our medic, I said, just tape me up because I'm not going to the hospital. You know, I just toughed it out. But
That was it.
yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for sharing with us. I don't want to give you a cold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that either.
But anyway, we'd love to give you a challenge coin, which we don't have right here, but here's a mug. I
Okay.
would love to
Okay, well, thank you.
commemorate you visiting us here.
Yeah.
And Heidi, for sharing your story as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I was more than happy to do it. You guys do a heck of a job here. And if I could help out, I'm more than happy to.
Yes, well, you heard that.
Yeah, I heard that. Actually, you know, he's an avid fly fisherman. He goes all over Canada, and you know, we go to the Canary Islands. And I know you have a program for Wounded Warriors.
Yeah, Healing Waters.
Healing Waters. And Joe, I think, wants to
Good.
volunteer.
Well, I'll link them up because I volunteer with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that would
Yeah.
be a neat thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
I just got my grandson started. One of my grandsons. I was really proud. I told you the other day, really proud of him. I've got one grandson. You can tell him he just don't really sink in. He's not, you know. But anyway, this other one, he said, yeah, I'd like to So he come over, and I took him out, and I've got a little man cave out back in my shed where I tie all my flies and everything. I took him out, and I said, this is the rod you're going to use, and I showed him how to tie his tippet on his leader, and then showed him how to tie a fly on just one time. And then I took him out in the backyard and showed him how to cast and let him practice for 15, 20 minutes. And so then the next morning we get up and we go up, we're fishing away, and he's doing okay. I said, now you got to watch that fly and you hook them when they come up. You got to see them. And so he missed 5 or 6 before he finally hooked one. And then he hooked one, and then he couldn't figure out, had a hard time taking care of the line. And so, but anyway, it's a place up off the Poudre River. It's a South Fork of the Poudre. And nobody really fishes it. It seems like I've been in there and go back the next week, and my footprints are still in the sandbar, and nobody else's. You know, it's one of those type of places.
Good place to fish then.
Yeah, and so, but it's kind of hard. It's small enough where it's easy. It's just get in the middle of the stream and wade up and fish both directions. So I put him in, and he, needless to say, he hooked a back cast. He hooked a willow and had to break his line off. And I was up above him, kind of watching him. And I said, he'll be up here for me to tie things on for him in just a minute. He went over and sat down on the bank, and he just had his shorts on and tennis shoes, and his tennis shoes had filled up with sand. So he cleaned his tennis shoes out first, and then I give him a fanny pack with a fly box and stuff in it. He got the fly box, and he picked the fly out, and he sat down there, and sure as heck, he tied that sucker on by himself. And then he got back up and went out there, and he started catching fish. And I said, my God, he
fisherman.
Yeah, he caught, and he likes it. He caught on, and I think he actually landed 4 fish. But my Lord, I don't know how many he had on, and he lost. But they ranged from about 6 inches to maybe 14 inches, and he finally caught one. His last one he caught before I was getting hungry, so I said, let's go eat. But he caught a 14-incher and got it in. Oh, was he proud. He was holding that out. Look at that little pa. Yeah.
Well, please
Thank
stick
you.
around a little longer and visit some more. And we have plenty
Yeah,
of
there's-
products and cookies.
I brought a couple of annuals here, one from the jump school and one from the 2nd Division if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, we have a bunch.